Get out, you worthless wife who can't even do household chores. I sat on the floor, berated and belittled. My mother-in-law glared at me. I've got Mauricio and my mom, we don't need you. You always look so miserable. You are just a parasite. My sister-in-law, who never lifts a finger around the house, said this with a tone of utter disdain. Wait a minute, Mauricio. Your mom and sister are being too harsh. I've been. Before I could finish, even my husband Mauricio looked down on me. My mom and sister are right. I don't need a wife who can't handle housework while working. Besides, I've got a young part-time girl who's much better. Pack your bags and leave. Stunned by Mauricio's words, all three began to berate me, calling me a failure of a wife. I clenched my fists, looking down. After exploiting me all the time, how dare they? Just you wait, I'll make sure you all get what's coming to you. But I looked at the three of them and said, without changing my expression, fine, I'll leave. The downfall of the family that's been dumping everything on me begins now. My name is Eleanor. I'm 32 and a working housewife. Most women work after marriage these days, and I've continued to work at the company I joined after graduating college because I love my job. One morning, as I was busy getting ready for work, Mauricio spoke up. Hey Eleanor, can you handle this? Tax season is coming up. He handed me a pile of receipts and invoices. Again? You should handle your own shop's accounting. Mauricio looked away. You know I'm bad at that stuff. So, please? I married Mauricio 5 years ago. Mauricio used to work as a clerk at a restaurant that I occasionally stopped by. After several dates, we decided to get married. Now, Mauricio runs his dream cafe, but he leaves all the tedious tasks like procurement and accounting to me. As I head to the door, my mother-in-law chimes in. Eleanor, I want Chinese food tonight. All right, can you prepare the ingredients? No way. You can do it when you get back. Also, Vivian and the kids are coming this weekend. Make sure you prepare something they can eat. Fine. I replied reluctantly and left the house. When we got married, I wanted to live just with Mauricio, but he insisted that we live with his mother because he was worried about her living alone. So, we moved to his spacious family home. My mother-in-law is terrible at housekeeping, and the place was a mess when we moved in. She lives on a pension and spends most of it on eating out because she doesn't want to cook. Mauricio always says housework is a woman's job, so even though I work, I'm stuck doing all the chores for the whole family. On top of that, my sister-in-law Vivian, who's moved out since getting married, often comes back home with her kids. When she's here, the workload increases. This morning, when I heard she's coming back this weekend, I thought, oh, not again. And then, the dreaded weekend arrives. I'd love to relax on my weekends off from work, but instead, I have to entertain Vivian's kids and prepare meals. While I'm running around, Vivian drops a bombshell on me. Eleanor, by the way, I'm getting divorced and moving back here with the kids next month. Just so you know. What? Are you serious? Got a problem with that? No. That must be tough for you. When are you moving back? As soon as I can. My sister-in-law is coming home with the kids. I'm initially taken aback, but then reconsidered. Vivian used to be a housewife, so she'll probably help around the house. That should lighten my load a bit. Though we're not particularly close, I look forward to having less work and go about my days. But I soon realize I was too optimistic. Vivian, like her mother, does absolutely nothing. She lounges around all day, watching TV and snacking. She neither works nor does housework. Apparently, her neglect of household duties was a major reason for her divorce. Now, I have to do all the chores, including making meals for her picky kids and getting them ready for kindergarten. As time passes, my job gets busier with a new project, requiring more overtime and early starts. The house becomes increasingly messy. Coming home to a cluttered house is utterly disappointing. And yet, everyone keeps saying, "When's dinner?" Or, "You're so slow." To make matters worse, I start getting passive-aggressive comments from Vivian and my mother-in-law. "Eleanor, the laundry is piling up. Just because you work doesn't mean you can slack off." "But I'm busy too." As I try to argue, Vivian cuts in. "Talking back to your mother-in-law? You're so bold, Eleanor. And you've been buying all the meals. That's not good for the kids. If you're home, can't you help out a bit?" "What are you saying? Mauricio is a business owner. You don't have to work, you're just doing it out of selfishness. So, fulfill your duties as a wife perfectly." I was speechless, and both of them looked at me as if it was all perfectly normal. That night, I was so angry I could explode, so I talked to Mauricio. "I'm busy with work, and neither your mom nor your sister is helping with the housework." "You're not bad-mouthing my mom and sister, are you?" Mauricio glares at me. I replied in amazement. "No, that's not it. But I can't handle all the housework by myself. If you could help me a little. I'm busy running a business." "You might not understand because you have an easy office job, but running a business is hard. Besides, housework is a wife's job, isn't it? Don't expect me to do it." "Are you serious?" Mauricio just goes to sleep, leaving me to stew in my thoughts. But then, an idea comes to me. I came up with a good idea. I quickly grab my phone and make some online purchases before going to sleep. A few days later, a bunch of new appliances arrive. A drum washer-dryer, a cleaning robot, and kitchen appliances with automatic cooking functions. If no one's going to help me, I might as well make my chores easier with some handy gadgets. As the delivery guys are bringing in the washer, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law show up. "You bought a new washer without asking?" "The old one still works. But it's old, and this will make laundry faster and easier." "What's all this? A cleaning robot and cooking appliances?" "Eleanor, come here." I'm summoned to the living room, where they're sitting on the sofa, and I'm told to sit on the floor. Mauricio is there too, sitting next to his mom, looking smug. "What's going on?" my mother-in-law shouts. "What do you mean, what's going on? You buy all these lazy gadgets with the household money, what are you thinking?" "I thought it would make housework more efficient." "It's not about efficiency. People these days rely too much on machines." My sister-in-law chimes in. "Exactly, Eleanor. And those are luxury items. The appliances we have are still usable. You're just being wasteful because Mauricio is a business owner." She glares at me, and Mauricio nods in agreement. "But You're just trying to make life easier for yourself. Can't you even do housework properly?" I wanted to say, "Look who's talking," but I kept quiet. Finally, my mother-in-law, perhaps frustrated by my silence, snaps. "If you can't even do housework properly, you should just leave." I look at her in shock. She glares back at me. "We don't need you. Mauricio and I are fine without you. You always look so tired and miserable. You're just a parasite." My sister-in-law spoke in a tone that suggested she was fed up. "Wait a minute, Mauricio. Your mom and sister are being way too harsh. When I turned to Mauricio for support, he looked down on me and said, "They're right. I don't need a wife who can't handle housework." I stared at Mauricio in disbelief, but he just smirked. "I'm a business owner, and I can do whatever I want with my money. I don't need a wife who spends it to make her life easier." "Why would you say something like that? Besides, I've been getting along well with a young part-time worker. She's cute, unlike you. Pack your bags and leave." Stunned by Mauricio's words, all three began to berate me, calling me a failure of a wife. I clenched my fists in anger. After exploiting me all this time, they dare to say this? Just you wait, I'll make you regret this. But I kept my composure and said, "Fine, I'll leave." "Good, we'll be better off without you." My mother-in-law spat out, and I silently stood up and placed something on the table. "Mauricio, let's get divorced." It was a pre-filled divorce application. I had gotten it as a sort of talisman, tired of everything. "Fine, I'll sign it. But don't regret it later." Mauricio signed the papers. And I packed my bags and moved to a weekly apartment that same day. No one came to see me off. I submitted the divorce papers to the city hall and rented a condo. Around the same time, I accepted a promotion I had been refusing due to housework and became a department head. I was able to advance my career, which I had almost given up on, and I became more and more immersed in my work. Thrilled that no one was there to hinder me. More than anything else, I was overjoyed. About a week after leaving, my former mother-in-law started calling. But I was busy and had no desire to talk to someone who had called me a worthless wife. I continued to ignore her calls. A year later, on a day off, she called again. Thinking it was time to settle things, I answered. "Hello? Ah. Eleanor, you finally answered. How could you ignore me for over a year? What do you want?" "Well, how are you doing? Are you okay?" I answered her probing question straightforwardly. "I'm doing great, working hard in my own apartment. I've been promoted and my salary has increased. I'm living comfortably." "Is that so? Would you consider coming back?" Her tone was almost pleading, and I asked, shivering, "Why now?" "We are in trouble. We're running out of money." I couldn't help but smirk as I responded. "Oh, Mauricio's shop isn't even making a $1,000 profit, huh? And neither you nor your daughter work, so that makes sense." "Eleanor, you knew?" Yes, I knew. Mauricio's cafe was only making about $800 a month in profit. I was the one handling the finances, so of course, I knew. Mauricio, who acted like a big-shot business owner but didn't do any proper management or customer service, probably had no idea. Of course I knew. I was the one doing all the accounting and inventory. "What? Why didn't you say something? I had no idea you were a manager at a big company and contributing so much to our living expenses." Yes, I was putting in over $3,000 a month. That's how everyone was able to live. I had been supplementing the family income with my own salary because I knew Mauricio's shop wasn't making much. Mauricio probably realized he couldn't make ends meet without my income only after I left. "Please, Eleanor, come back. By the way, what happened to Mauricio's shop?" Ignoring my former mother-in-law's plea, I asked. "Mauricio's shop is going under next month. Even the part-time girl left him. That figures. With such sloppy management, he can't keep a business running. And he's too proud to do what needs to be done. No woman would want to be with a man like that." I chuckled, and my former mother-in-law was at a loss for words. "Can we wrap this up?" "I'm busy." She hurriedly continued. Also, the house has been a mess since you left. A mess? According to her, the house was in chaos because no one was doing any housework. The house was cluttered, no one was cooking, so they had to buy food, and they couldn't even afford a new washing machine. It would have been nice if you'd left those appliances. Ex-mother-in-law says. What are you talking about? Weren't those lazy appliances? And what's wrong with taking things that I paid for? I shouldn't have said that. But I never thought the house would become like this just because no one was doing the chores. I asked, getting a bit irritated. Isn't it strange that 3 adults can't manage the housework? What are your daughter and Mauricio doing? She lowered her voice. Well, Mauricio is sulking at home all day, doing nothing since he found out his shop isn't making any money. Really? He said he could do whatever he wanted with his money because he's a business owner. And Vivian won't work no matter how much I tell her. She doesn't do housework, and she even asks me for pocket money for herself and her kids. My pension is running out. Really? Your daughter told me she didn't need me because she had you. I said coldly. My former mother-in-law tried to butter me up again. Please, Eleanor, my pension isn't enough for the 3 of us anymore. I have no intention of going back to that house. Your children are quite the parasites, aren't they? She was speechless. As I was about to hang up, she continued. Eleanor, we'll change our ways. Please come back. Let's all live happily together again, okay? Live happily with a worthless wife? I cut her off, and she stumbled over her words but continued to plead. I'm sorry for what I said. We are family. Help us. We can't even pay the property taxes anymore. We'll have to sell the house. I have neither the obligation nor the desire to help you. Figure it out yourselves. Goodbye from your worthless wife. Ignoring her ongoing wails, I hung up and blocked her number. Sipping my coffee in my clean apartment, I chuckled. 3 months later, I happened to pass by Mauricio's cafe. It had become a vacant storefront. It seemed he really had gone out of business. Even their family home was listed as sold. According to a former neighbor I ran into, the 3 of them had sold the house and fled, now living in a cramped apartment nearby. They were a constant neighborhood nuisance, always fighting and even stinking up the place. Complaints were piling up. All they had to do was work hard and take care of their home without relying on others. But they didn't, which was so like them. I looked at their former home with detached eyes and walked away. Since then, I've been focusing on my work. Recently, a sincere and hardworking colleague confessed his feelings for me, saying, I love how dedicated you are to your work. We are dating with the intention of getting married. I don't think my next marriage is too far off. And this time, I'm looking forward to grabbing hold of happiness. With this, I'll finally get the inheritance. Right before losing consciousness, I heard my husband's voice. I had just finished a hospital visit and was about to head home when suddenly a car sped towards me. I realized it too late to escape and was hit. Amidst the intense pain and fading consciousness, I heard what my husband had said. What did he mean by inheritance? Why was he even here? As I tried to make sense of it, I lost consciousness without seeing him. 3 days later, I woke up and saw on the TV that my husband was acting the part of a grieving, loving husband. I was furious. He was garnering sympathy while pretending to be a good person, even though he had schemed everything. I couldn't let him have his way anymore and decided to seek revenge. I am Jennifer Brown, 29 years old. A music teacher. I've always loved the piano and dreamed of becoming a pianist since childhood. After practicing desperately every day, I managed to get into a music college, but I was overwhelmed by the high level of competition and eventually gave up. I obtained a teaching license and became a music teacher. Currently, I work at a local public middle school, where I'm not just a teacher but also the advisor of the choir club, leading a busy life. Being a teacher is tough, but the kids admire me calling teacher, so I was enjoying fulfilling days. Last year, I married Robert, whom I had dated since college. We were at the peak of happiness in both our personal and professional lives, but it didn't last. My husband Robert was just a mess. He worked at a bar, and because of the nature of his job, he had late shift. Our daily rhythms were completely different, and we began to drift apart. He often drinks after work, so I find him sleeping at the entrance returning home drunk in the morning. Initially, I thought it was just part of his job. But when I came home tired from work, I found clothes thrown about, and the table littered with empty instant noodle cups and finished drink bottles. Seeing this mess every day, my anger just kept building up.
Robert, put your clothes in the laundry. And can you clean up your mess?
What? Stop nagging. I'll do it later.
Later? You always say that and never do it. Do it now.
Frowning, Robert clicked his tongue in annoyance.
If it bothers you so much, do it yourself. You're such a nagging woman. What? I'm tired from work every day. Why do I have to take care of you? Can't you at least take care of your own things?
I'm tired too, you know. Do you think you're the only one? Or do you think you're superior to me because you earn more? I denied that, and Robert sighed.
Then you should do it.
Don't order me around like that. Saying this, Robert lazily lay down on the sofa and started fiddling with his mobile phone. Despite shorter working hours than me, he never helped with housework and just drank around and slept at home. I ended up doing all the cleaning and laundry. Recently, our dates had stopped, and we just argued more. Robert was very handsome. He was popular in college that he even had fans from neighboring universities. I felt superior just being able to marry him. I was smitten with the gentlemanly Robert during our courtship, but now I wondered why I married him. However, everyone has their good and bad sides. I thought maybe it was okay for someone handsome to have a flawed personality, so I decided to bear with it. Half a year after getting married, Robert, who usually went out even on his days off, seemed restless one morning. When I finished cleaning up after breakfast, he called me.
Actually, the bar's been doing poorly lately. I'm short on cash. Can you lend me some?
What? Are you that short on money? What did you spend it on? He had been saying for months that his salary had decreased and he couldn't pay living expenses. But his salary was supposed to be entirely disposable, yet he claimed to be short on money.
You know, sometimes I go out for drinks with friends. Alcohol costs a lot.
If it's really for the shop, you should get reimbursed for expenses. It's ridiculous to pay out of your own pocket.
No, it's not that. I mean, I need it for studying. I have to know other bars' menus and stuff for research.
Robert's stammering explanation seemed suspicious.
How much do you need? You'll give it to me? $200. Just $200 is fine.
I sighed, and Robert happily hugged me. I was exasperated by his opportunistic behavior, but it was exactly this kind of charm that always ensnared me. I took out $200 from my wallet and handed it to him. He hugged me again. I really made the right choice marrying Jennifer.
Thank you so much.
Because of our constant fighting these days, I felt over the moon when he hugged me while I was exasperated with him. I felt like I had to support him, who had a tough job. But then, he started asking for money almost every month. The amount he wanted kept increasing, and before I knew it, I was giving him as much as $1,000 monthly. For me, just a teacher, it was quite tough to pay $1,000 in addition to regular living expenses. Despite my efforts to save, my savings were rapidly depleting.
Robert, can you pay back even a little of the money I gave you?
What? Why all of a sudden?
You gave me that money, why should I give it back?
It's getting hard to make ends meet. If I keep giving you money, I won't be able to pay for gas or water.
When I spoke to Robert before he went to work, he made a face as if it was a hassle. I can't help it, my salary is too low.
You could if you tried to save a bit, like cutting down on eating out.
I'm doing that for the bar. Are you trying to interfere with my work? Then sell your piano. That'll bring in good money. Saying that, he left the house. My piano is as precious to me as life itself. It was a gift from my father when I was 2 years old. I need it for practice as a music teacher, there's no way I can part with it. Yet, Robert, who casually drinks around, coldly suggested selling it, which infuriated me. After that, Robert and I stopped speaking. He didn't try to talk to me either, and our marital relationship was practically in ruins. I was contemplating divorce when an incident occurred. While playing the piano, a pain shot through my wrist. The pain, like an electric shock from the wrist to the fingertips, became unbearable. When I visited the hospital, I was diagnosed with tendinitis.
If it gets worse, you might need surgery, so you should get a thorough examination at a bigger hospital.
Told this at a nearby clinic, I was given a referral letter. Then, I headed to the general hospital in the next town. If my wrist pain worsens, I might not be able to play the piano anymore. And if I can't play, I might lose my job. If that happens, I don't know what to do to make a living. Having focused solely on playing the piano and not having done any other job, I thought changing careers would be difficult. Before the consultation, I felt anxious and heavy-footed. However, the doctor, after seeing the X-rays, smiled and said it was okay.
Let's observe for now. If possible, please rest your hand. Don't play the piano for about a week, and if the pain worsens, come back for another visit.
I was relieved to hear that it wasn't serious enough for surgery. It happened when I stepped out the parking, just as I was about to leave the hospital triumphantly.
Watch out!
I heard a woman scream and turned around in shock to see a car speeding towards me. I wanted to run, but my body wouldn't move properly. Then, an immense impact hit my body.
It's an accident! Call an ambulance! Get a doctor!
I heard various voices. Amidst fading consciousness, a familiar voice reached my ears.
With this, the inheritance plan will work out.
I heard a distinctly familiar voice amidst the others. But I lost consciousness before I could identify the speaker. 3 days later, I woke up to the ceiling of a hospital room. When I tried to sit up, intense pain shot through my body. Ow, it hurts.
Ms. Brown!
Can you hear me? I'll go get the doctor, just wait here. I couldn't respond to the nurse's voice. She hurried out, and then the doctor came running.
Ms. Brown, do you know where you are?
The hospital?
Correct. You were hit by a car after your last visit and have been hospitalized. You haven't woken up for 3 days, so we were worried.
I was shocked to hear it had been 3 days, but I couldn't voice it. The nurse and doctor then explained my current situation. I had been hit by a car and suffered multiple complex fractures throughout my body. I was still in a period of absolute rest, not even allowed to sit up.
It must be boring just lying there. Do you want to watch TV? You can watch it while lying down.
The nurse turned on the TV for me, ensuring my comfort. Coincidentally, the TV was covering my accident.
Oh, you probably don't want to see this, do you? Should I change the channel?
No, please leave it. I want to watch. I couldn't take my eyes off the news. It reported that a woman named Amelia, who hit me with her car, was arrested for dangerous driving causing injury. Seeing the perpetrator's photo, everything made sense to me. Then I realized that the voice talking about receiving an inheritance when I was hit was Robert's. He had intentionally run me over with a car for money. However, the news only reported that he was in Amelia's car as a friend, nothing more. The screen switched to Robert.
I never imagined that the car I was in would cause an accident and hit my wife.
I keep seeing that scene in my dreams. I can't sleep at night.
I exploded with anger at his tearful interview. This accident was undoubtedly schemed by Robert. I couldn't stand him causing me this accident for inheritance and then continuing to act like a good husband. Determined not to let Robert have his way anymore, I vowed revenge. 4 hours after waking up, Robert burst into the room, panting. "Jennifer! Thank goodness you're awake!" I shook off Robert's hand as he tried to grasp mine uninvited. "What's wrong? Are you still in pain?"
"Yes, I am.
My whole body is in excruciating pain, all because of you." "What are you talking about?" The atmosphere grew tense, making even the nearby nurse's expression stiffen. Trying to lighten the mood, Robert forced a smile. "Are you still confused? Is there anything you want to eat? I'll go buy it." "I don't want anything. Can you please leave my room right now?" "Why are you saying that?" "Jennifer, you're acting strange."
"It's not strange at all. The accident was schemed by you for the inheritance, wasn't it?"
Robert looked surprised at my words. "What are you talking about? Why would I do something like that?"
"Really? Then why did you take out a high-value life insurance policy a month before the accident? You said you couldn't even afford to pay the living expenses because your salary was low."
I was told it's good to have insurance in case something happens.
Amelia, the girl who hit Jennifer with her car, she works in insurance sales. She used to work part-time at my bar.
Robert had given the same explanation when he took out the insurance. They had been close since her part-time days, and after she got a job at an insurance company, they kept in touch. He said he felt sorry for her as she was struggling to sell policies. As he worried about getting scolded by her boss and having low pay, he decided to take out a policy to help her out.
The insurance was taken out because you, Jennifer, earn more than me, right? If something happened and you couldn't work, it would be a problem, so I contracted the insurance for you.
Isn't that reasonable? Hearing that, it seemed like his explanation might not be wrong.
You're in a situation where you have to borrow money from me and can't pay the living expenses, yet you can afford insurance premiums? If you can pay that much, why not repay me?
Don't say that. I got the insurance for your sake. Robert said this while holding my hand. His expression looked genuinely concerned, but I couldn't bring myself to trust him.
If that's the case, you won't mind if the insurance money doesn't come in, right? I need quite a lot of money for surgery and hospitalization. I'll use the insurance money we received, so please transfer the entire amount to my account.
What? All of it? Is that much really necessary?
It might be. If it's not enough, will you pay the rest, Robert?
What? Not enough. That can't be true. Robert's face stiffened as he muttered to himself. Seeing him like this, the nurses also cast suspicious glances. I beckoned Robert to come closer and whispered so only he could hear.
"It's useless to lie anymore. There isn't much insurance money because I'm alive, and there's zero inheritance. You must be disappointed."
Robert frowned upon hearing this.
"Zero inheritance? What do you mean?" "It means there's almost no savings. Did you think you would get all my money if I was gone? Why is there none? You're a public servant, you earn well, right?"
Robert's voice grew louder. And a nurse frowned upon overhearing him.
"I was lending money to you, Robert. How much do you think a teacher's salary is? I'm still in my 20s, I don't earn that much. Plus, there are living expenses to pay. I never had any financial leeway." "You've got to be kidding. What was all this for, then?"
Robert hung his head, clutching at his forehead. My anger surged at his true nature showing.
"You won't get away with this easily. You'll be arrested too if they find out you were an accomplice. No one will believe that. Did you see the news? I'm the devoted husband worried about his wife. No one will believe anything you say. They'll just think you've gone mad from hitting your head."
While saying this, Robert laughed.
"You can say that now, but not for long.
I replied calmly to Robert's provocation. Then, he looked at me with a cold gaze.
Don't get cocky. You should have just gone to the other world.
I despised him for saying such things so casually. I sighed, waiting for the moment of revenge. Just as I sighed, the door of the hospital room opened abruptly, and men in a suit entered.
Who the hell are you?
We're the police.
Is what you just said true? What? What are you talking about? I'm just worried about my wife.
Ignoring Robert, who was sweating and panicking, the police reached for my bedside and took out a mobile phone. The phone was in the middle of a call.
We've heard everything. Even the part about she should have gone to the other world. What? Why are the police?
He turned pale and started to tremble.
I called them. I wanted their help to uncover the truth about the accident. Thanks to you, I could fully expose your true nature. What, you? Officer, this is a misunderstanding. I just have a quick temper, and I thought Jennifer was picking a fight, so I snapped. It's not really about the money.
No one will believe those words now.
Then show me evidence that I'm the perpetrator of the accident.
Robert kicked the bed in frustration. I glared at him and turned to the police.
The woman currently arrested, Amelia, is his mistress. They've been close for quite a while. What? Don't say such nonsense without evidence.
There is evidence.
I had hired a private detective agency to investigate you. We have photos of you with Amelia and records of your activities over the past few months.
Lying won't help you now. Ever since Robert frequently started asking me for money, I suspected he was in debt and hired a private detective agency investigate. The investigation revealed that he was having an affair, spending money on drinks and hotels daily. Knowing his mistress's face, I was certain he was involved in the accident when I saw her on the news. The police were making a phone call to search my house while listening to the conversation. Meanwhile, Robert was sweating and visibly shaken.
So you ran out of money I gave you, and planned this accident to get the inheritance and insurance money, planning to live with her, isn't that right? That's just your wild imagination. Then I'll take the insurance money. Withdraw it now and bring it to me.
Robert fell silent. It seems like he doesn't want to give up the money at all. Even though Robert refuses to hand over the insurance money despite the situation, the surrounding skepticism grows.
I've heard from the police. They're concerned about how much you've been worrying about that woman. Well, she's my friend, it's natural to be concerned. The police told me they're concerned about how much you worry about the other woman. You're not even mad at Amelia for what happened to me. And why were you at the hospital that day, at that time?
It was a weekday morning when I went to the hospital. Robert should have been getting ready for work around noon, and it was the time when I finished my appointment. Yet, he was inexplicably near a hospital in a neighboring city.
I just happened to have a day off. On your day off, you were at the hospital? There are no places around there that you would visit. You weren't being treated there, so there must have been some reason you were there.
Robert was speechless, sweating profusely. The police then restrained him.
We'll ask for the details at the station. Please come with us. Wait. I'm not guilty. It's all a misunderstanding by Jennifer.
His desperate excuses were ignored by the police, who remained unfazed with a stern expression.
Officer, if he had planned the accident, what kind of punishment could he face? Well, if it's premeditated, it could be attempted murder. We need to hear the full story first, though. Attempted murder? Help me! Jennifer, I'm not guilty! Forgive me!
Robert, pale as a ghost, shook off the police's grip and clung to my bed.
I admit I was wrong for cheating and borrowing money. I'm sorry. But this time, I was just in the car. I'm not guilty. Before I lost consciousness, I heard your voice, Robert, saying now we'll get the inheritance as planned. How can I forgive someone who did this for money?
When I spoke up, he started making unbelievable statements.
What? Are you sure about that? If I get arrested, it will reflect badly on you too. You'll have trouble at work. It's in your best interest to be careful. Why should I forgive you? Do you even realize what you've done? I plan to divorce you, and whether you get arrested or not is none of my concern.
I sighed in exasperation at his shocked expression.
Wait! Talking about divorce at a time like this? What do you mean? How can I live without Jennifer?
I made a further attack on Robert, who held his head in despair.
That's not my problem. Just so you know, I was planning to divorce even without this incident. I have proof of your infidelity, and I'll get a hefty compensation in the divorce trial. Compensation in a divorce trial? How can I possibly pay that? If I get arrested, I'll lose my job too. That's your own fault for committing a crime. You should have thought twice before doing such things.
Robert then knelt down, defeated.
I was tricked. Amelia said to me, if you wanted money, you should have just taken out insurance and staged an accident. Initially, I was supposed to drive, but since my license was suspended, she decided to drive. It's all her fault,
Robert shouted. Hearing Robert try to lighten his sentence even in this situation, I couldn't contain my fury.
Tricked or not, I don't care. I'll never forget you saying I should have gone to the other world. That was your true feeling. That's a lie. I didn't mean it. I can't believe such words. I never want to have anything to do with you again, Robert. I'll consult a lawyer about the divorce, so never contact me again. No! That's a lie! Stop it! I'm not bad! Let go!
He started to thrash around, but he was warned that further resistance could lead to obstruction of justice charges, and he quietly left the hospital room with the police. The next day, I learned from the news that Robert had been arrested. The once kind and grieving husband was now vilified as a criminal who plotted murder for insurance money. Over a decade later, I heard that he was released from prison. He had been fired from his job and struggled to find new employment due to his criminal record. Apparently, he was now working at a grocery store. I saw on social media that he is often reprimanded at work for having a lot to learn. As his case was reported in national news, he's well known to many. Apparently, people recognize him and take his photos without permission, making him uncomfortable. The photos show him looking significantly aged and unkempt, likely due to financial struggles. It's sad to see such a drastic change in someone who was once celebrated for his looks during his college days. Despite feeling this way, I cannot forgive him. I hope he spends his life reflecting on his actions. After everything that happened, I resigned from the school where I was working and moved out of state. There, I found a job as a piano teacher. Miraculously, my hands were not permanently damaged from the accident, and I was able to play the piano again. Now, I am remarried to a different man, and we are blessed with 2 daughters, living happily as a family of 4. When I married Robert, I chose him based on his looks. However, this experience taught me a painful lesson about not judging people by their appearance. My current husband may not be conventionally handsome, but he's kind, honest, and a wonderful person. I've made a vow to myself to never be swayed by appearances and to discern people's true nature.